Ladies and gentlemen, today I would like to continue the discussion on the proposition that history is always written by the victors and provide further evidence to support this claim. As we know, historian accounts are often shaped by the perspectives and interests of those who record them. In the case of wars and conflicts, the victors have a vested interest in shaping the historical record to their advantage. This can be seen in the way that certain events and narratives are emphasized or suppressed depending on the political and social context and the time. For example, during the Vietnam War, the U.S. government sought to control the narrative around the conflicts by restricting access to information and promotion a particular view of the war. As journalist and historian Daniel C. Hallen writes, the U.S. government made extensive use of the power of the mass media to control the information environment during the Vietnam War, and in doing so, attempted to shape the perceptions of the American people in the world around the conflict. Similarly, in the aftermath of the World War II, the Allied powers sought to shape the historical record by emphasizing the contributions to the war effort and downplaying the contributions of the others. As historian Gerhard Winberg writes, the historical record of the World War II was shaped by the victors, and they have a vested interest in downplaying the contribution of other nations and promoting their own rules. These examples demonstrate that the recording of history is not a neutral or objective process, but rather is shaped by the perspectives and interests of those in power. As a result, the narratives of interpretations presented in the historical records are often biased and incomplete. However, it is important to note that history is not statistics, but it's constantly evolving and contested. As new perspectives and voices emerge, our understanding of past events and narratives can shift and change. By acknowledging the power dynamics at play in recording of history and working to ensure that diverse perspectives are included, we can work towards a more accurate, inclusive understanding of our shared past. In conclusion, I argue that history is always written by the victors, but this does not mean that historical records are inherently biased or inaccurate. By acknowledging the power dynamics at play and working to include diverse perspectives, we can work toward a more accurate and inclusive understanding of shared.
Okay, your time's up. You have 2 minutes to interpret. Miss Negative Speaker, your time starts.
According to the author of the quote, the history is always written by the victors. Winston Churchill said that this quote is an interpretation of the victors. So, kung moingon ka nga, history is gisuwat ra sa mga victors, kung sa man-improve nag-iingon ni Winston nga nag-author sa quote na ang kaning history is just, kaning nga quote is interpretation na sa mga victors.
So, history is written by the victors. The morning mingo and is what Winston Churchill. Ang kanang quotes, it implies that history is not grounded in facts. Rather, it's the winner interpretation of them prevails. The victor can force their narrative down to the people.
So, ang history is interpretation nila sa victors, makasiguro ba ka na ang history na ilang ipagsulat kay mo di tinuod, di ba kung ako madaog ko sa usa ka competition, kung ako madaog sa competition, magawa ko o kanang history ako sa akong kalingon nga mas mula pa o mas mabilo lang ako pagkadaog.
This also suggests that the dominant group is vying for the narrative of controls that their and history version becomes accepted truth that it means in people that power of the winners of significant event narrate what happened, how it happened, and why it happened.
seconds.
In relation to the topic being debated, can you give us a comprehension and real understanding about the word victors that you assume the writers of the history?
Okay, time is up. Please remain for the negative. Okay, for the constructive speech of the second negative speaker, your 3 minutes starts now.
Hello, good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Faith and I am the second speaker of the negative team. My team and I are disagreed agrees that history is always written by victors. My opponent, Giselle, said that only Giselle said that only victors can write history. In my statistic, history is written not only just for victors, but anyone can and want to write history. Many people disagree that quote. My team argue that history is always written by victors. In this part of my speech, I will clearly defend what my team stands for. So, what do you mean by history? According to Plato, history is the study of the past in all aspects, economic, socio-cultural, or war. It could be war kay history man. Yeah. In general, Plato states that history is not just about war. So, pwede din siya magkuhan sa economic. What do you mean by always? Always means no exemption. What if we gave you a proof that there's bisag usa ra ka proof nga na ang history is di wala na giswan sa victors? What do you mean by victors? What comes to your mind when you hear the word winner or victory? The thing that comes to your mind is only war or something that is fighting. In general, this statement or quote states that Satan hinders someone who wants to write history, especially if they're just an ordinary, if they're just a loser. If history is always written by victors, it means history is just about wars, right? But why? There is a history of technology, history of economics. According to Spencer McDaniel on 2020-2021, history could be written by victors but not necessarily. And according to Shab Saim 2017, this phrases is foolish. According to the writer of the quote, history is not grounded by fact, it is just an interpretation. If that's so history is not true and unreliable sources about the past because it's just an interpretation of the victors. According to McDaniel's Thames, on May, history is not always written by victors. I will cite an example that well, may evidence ba nga ang victor of sa kaning Athenians kaning the Babylonian and the Judah pagka 601 to 586 BCE. The Babylonians were the winner of the fight, but the best known account of writing of history about the
Okay,
destruction.
your time is up. This is negative speaker. You have 2 minutes to interrogate. Miss affirmative speaker, your time starts now.
So, Miss Cecil, you said it doesn't not only written by victors. So, how can you say that this history is relevant if it is written by anybody?
Another question? There's a
So, you said earlier that many people against the quotes, history is always written by the victors. So, can you tell me the person who against the quotes? Can you say? Can you say God? Spencer McDaniel. Inigos ka nga. History could be written by victors, but not necessarily. So, siya, ang history, written dyan sa victors. Pero, but not necessarily. Ang atong topic
Your, your,
Only the affirmative can question the opponent.
You said that it's just an interpretation, so how do you win the battle of the past? If they didn't tell the winning
Time
history,
is up!
that means
And that's the Let's proceed to the third round. The equal, the third affirmative and the third negative. We have Mulapos and Aluhar.
Compress ko nung kaya di mo makita sa video.
Third negative
Hindi
speaker.
ba compress
You
mo bakit mo
have
makita sa video?
3 minutes to deliver your
Compress mo kaya di mo makita sa
speech.
video.
Your time starts now.
Ladies and gentlemen, today I stand before you to argue in favor that the whole sake of history is always written by the rulers. Historical records are not neutral or objective, but rather shaped by the perspectives and biases of those who record them. This is especially true when it comes to the recording of events and narrative of historical context. Where the vectors have a vested
Papahadyo ng Jira.
interest in shaping the historical
Papakas
record
Jira ba?
to their advantage. As American historian and journalist who once did or views his book, A People's History of the United States, traditional accounts of American history often fails knowledge and perspectives and experience for marginalized groups. Zid writes, the treatment of heroines, which is Columbus, and their victims, which is the Arawaks, the quite accepted as a murder in the name of progress, is one aspect of a certain approach to history, in which the past is told for the point of views of governments, conquerors, diplomats, leaders. It is according to Z 1980. Similarly, in the book, The Construction of Social Reality, philosopher Sally Hustler notes that the vectors have the power to shape the way the history is remembered and recorded. Hunters write the vectors are one who writes the books and the tends of writes them in the way of reinforce their own power and privilege. It is according to Hustler 1995. This example demonstrates that the records of history is not a neutral or objective process, but rather shaped by the perspectives and interests of those in power. As a result, the narratives and interpretation presented in historical records are often based and incomplete. However, it is also important to acknowledge that history is constantly evolving and contested field. As a new perspectives and voice emerge, our understanding of past events and narratives can be shifted and changed. This is why practice of citing source and reference is important, as it allows us to evaluate and reliability or credibility of historical records and challenge inaccurate or biased interpretations. In conclusion, I argue that history is always written by the victors.
Okay, time is up. You have 2 minutes to interpolate. Miss Negative Speaker, your time starts now.
So, Miss Balagos, is it really true that victors always get to write history? Can you think of any examples where this has not been the case? Is it really true that the victors always get to write history? Can you think of any examples where this has not been the case?
One of the key implementation of this code is that the dominant perspectives often become the official version of events. For example, in many historical events of colonialism, the European conquerors are portrayed as heroes. This is a clear example of how the vector's version of history can be used to justify ongoing inequality
history is written by the records affect our understanding of historical events? Does it mean that we can never truly know what happened in the past?
Twenty seconds left. Any other questions?
Are there any downsides to the idea that history
While it is true that the winners of historical struggles often have disproportionate influence on the political economy.
Third constructive speech. You have 3 minutes to deliver this negative speaker. Your time starts now.
So hello everyone, I am the third speaker of our negative team. So one of the prominent figures who did not agree with the idea that history is always written by the vectors is Howard Zahn. Zahn was an American historian, playwright, and social activist who believed that conventional history has always been biased towards the powerful and dominant groups within society. According to Zahn, the traditional narrative of history has been designed to serve the interests of the ruling class and to justify their actions, while the experiences and perspectives of marginalized groups have often been ignored or silenced. Zahn believed that history should be examined from the perspective of those who've been oppressed, subjugated, and marginalized. Jan's book, A People's History of the United States, is a prime example of his approach to history. The book tells the story of American history from the perspective of those who have been traditionally excluded from the narrative, such as African Americans, Native Americans, women, and working class people. Zahn's approach to history challenges the notion that history is always written by the vectors. He believed that history is a narrative that can be shaped and told from a multiple perspectives, and that the experiences and perspectives of all people, regardless of their social status, should be included in the historical record.
You have 1 minute and 15 seconds left. Do you have something to say? Stop. Okay, that ends your speech. You have 2 minutes to interrelate. This negative speaker, your time starts now.
You said earlier that is biased. Okay, my question, why those people in the past are often write history but didn't accept it? Well, the winners in the past write history and it is acceptable until now. You said earlier that it is biased. Okay, my question is, why those people in the past are often write history but didn't accept it? Well, the winners in the past write history and it is accepted until now.
So,
20 minutes na. Manginit na yung cellphone.
So, as I said, that it is biased.
You're speaking vernacular.
So, kung mo ingon ang history is always written by the vectors. So, imong kay Juanan, dili. So, if it is, ang vectors ra may right nga or musuwat sa history, how about mga losers?
So, mao gani, ano wala may mga loser nga nagkuhan? Nagsuwat ng history.
You have 25 seconds to interrelate.
Do you think those people are masaligan o maluuhan? Kay dili man sila vectors.
So, dili porket dili sila
kay ang loser namatay mo kay.
You may now take your seat. So let's hear the opinion
Hi, sir.
for our audience here. Miss Ferdinando, what are your thoughts about the debate? Ferdinando, any comments?
Ay, pag...
Kuan sir, akong question nila is kanang ang pag-deliver sa tagsa-tagsa nga mga speaker is kanang kanang ila jud gina halungkat ang katong mga kuan sir ba na nindot pa sila mo to kanang makig-debate sa tagsa-tagsa nila din napag-uban nga murag makulbaan tong dito sa pikas din kani kay confidence ay.
Okay, di kayo bias? Let's proceed to the rebuttal round. I would just remind you again that a rebuttal pwede ninyo i-recall ang mga statements that has been delivered by the speakers from first to third. So, pwede ninyo i-recall and then you question it in front. So our first rebuttal speaker in the affirmative, we have Mr. William Costanes. Please, Miss Bert Gonzalo. Please stay here in front.
Ano ba kayo ng istorya?
And for the negative speaker, we
Aray!
have
Yaad to na nakuskuan. Dito sa sanayngan. Dito. Dito sa munisipyo. Dito sa munisipyo. Dira mas gayton sa kiko niya. Nireklamo ba sa munisipyo? Si ate may nireklamo. Si ate may tingong. Kuha mo kung tingong. Diesel. Mag-istorya daw sila. Mag-istorya.
her rebuttal speech for the affirmative. The record starts now.
Kami guro. Katubang guro mo yan.
When even the losers can represent all these losers, most probably silence them. They can manipulate the people to not believe the narrative of the losers. For example, in the time of the son, his book was taken by the friars and he got killed. Although he was able to write sentences, he was still silenced. He was still silenced and punished to death. Those people who were abused, oppressed, and killed deserve their own historical justice. There are too many of them.
You have 1 minute and 15 seconds to speak.
Pwede Bisaya, go!
History is not written by the victors. Let's say that history is written by the victors has become the common term that everyone believes in. But it is not actually always true. History is written by the people who write history. History is always written by the victors is both an oversimplification of the study of history as well as often as lazy.
Is there something to say? Paano pa kayo pa?
If you deny that history is always written by the victors, that means that you also deny the existence of those abused, oppressed, and killed.
Huwag ako ding-deny ka. I know. Di man tanan ka ang mga victors right. Di ba kilaban nila may always. Di man sila tanan ka sila may karapatan. Di mo karapatan ka right of history. Kaya sila
Okay, next sir, our time is up. So you have 2 minutes to respond. Miss Negative Speaker, your time starts now.
Aside from the fact that phrase is incorrect and doesn't justice to the actual process of trying to discern sources bias, it often used to reject perfectly good opinion. That's why it's not just an incorrect view of sources value and the historical process, but we might not even say that phrase history always reading by the people.
You have 1 30 seconds.
The proof is that individuals were able to write their own narrative. It's true, yes, they were able to write them. But can you also prove that they were not silenced, that they were not, that their stories were not hidden, their stories were not washed away from the public, general public, because we all deserve the truth. Ganun kayo makakatulog din yung
You have 47 seconds left.
Ikaw naman kay always na. Ganun kayo na always ba ito ka? Okay. Dapat binaog ng may suwat sa history. Kaya namin, atay kami kinensya ba, sila may tingkamatan yung suwat. Lain batas, hindi pa ikala na, hindi pa. Lain batas, hindi hatag ka ang mga victors, hindi tingkamatan yung suwat. Yes. You see, sige, they were able to write. Pero ako matay, nadulog ba? Karon pa na, kay isusin na sa mga nag-research sa history. So, karon na. So, in our own time, were they really able to let it out, voice it out?
Okay, name is
Ay, mag-audit.
Speaker for the rebuttal round. We have for the positive Mr. William Gonzalez. And for the negative, we have we have Maribelia.
Magplasta kay malit ang ipunto mong pi. Malit ipunto mong pi. Hindi rin ba ito malit?
Ladies and gentlemen, as we come to the end of this debate, I want to reiterate my stance in history in always written by the victors, and to provide some final evidence to support the claim. They said that they are not able to trust us, that we are the winners, and the victors are the ones to write those history. But the reality is that the historical accounts are never neutral or objective, but rather are shaped by perspective. So furthermore, power dynamics that shape the recording of interpretation of history are deeply ingrained in our social structure and institutions. It is important to acknowledge the history, yes. So, however, it does not mean that historical records is inherently inaccurate or unreliable. As was sabihin nila kanina nga ang kuno kanang di kuno ako na mga sa gingon ni Malen no kung batas nga kanang di na sa kuan po giingon po ni Miss Abad nga ang kuno bias ug napud kuno kanang inaccurate sa among gimuan na dili kuno history ang winners na. Pero mangutan na ay kanang magapan manatuod ta nga ang nadahog sa una mo ay nakasuwat diyan kang ano. Kaya ang mga pildi, wa sila kasuwat ug wala gidawat ilang mga papers kay pildi man sila usa man lang pag-approve. Sila magalingon nga kanang CI may kakuha, di ba? So kato mga winners ni mo ay Gahit og suwat kung mao'y katuhan sa kadaghanan. Kung until now maunay atong gituhan. Iswat pa na sa pang history na to. Ayan.
You have 20 seconds left.
So overall, history is complex and often contested field, and it's important to be aware that biases and perspective can inform an
Okay,
understanding.
guys, let's hear from the negative speaker. Your time starts now.
The whole history is always written by the victors is not always so one-sided. Firstly, it is worth noting that history is often written by a variety of different people and groups, not just the victors. Historians, scholars, and journalists all play a role in interpreting and recording history, and their perspective can be diverse and nuanced. Furthermore, even when the victors do attempt to write a one-sided narrative, there are often other sources of information that can help to balance the record. For example, eyewitness accounts, official documents, and archaeological evidence can all provide valuable insight into events that have taken place. Additionally, the idea that the victors have complete control over history assumes a level of uniformity and agreement within the victors' own ranks that is often not present. Different groups within the winning side may have different perspectives and interpretations of events, leading to competing historical narratives. It is worth acknowledging that while the victors may have more power and resources to shape the historical narrative, this does not necessarily mean that they are always successful in doing so. The
You
truth
have
of
30 seconds left.
They said that they are no history written by losers. How can you explain the Peloponnesian War, which is written by the losers?
So as what we said kanina pa nga nagsuwat sila og mga history apan ang kamutan na gidawat ba? Gidawat ba? Wala gisuwat siya pero wala gipagawa sila ano? Loser
Wala
pa
na
sila.
naman ay bias man.
Wala
Okay,
sila.
guys, the winners. But last but not the least. Rebuttal round. We have for the affirmative, we have Miss Hilot and Miss Kahel. Jacob, Miss Hilot and Miss Kahel. Second from
Here we go again.
Okay, for the affirmative, you have 5 minutes to speak for your rebuttal. Time starts now.
The whole history is always written by the victors. It's a common phrase that highlights the dominance of those who win in shaping the narrative of the past. While history is a field of study that aims to uncover the truth about past events, it is impossible to do so without acknowledging the biases and perspective of those who record and interpret history. This means that the historical narrative we are exposed to is often shaped by those who have come out on top. For example, consider the American Revolution, where the colonists fought for independence from British rule. The winners in this case were the revolutionaries who went to write the history of the war. This history has often portrayed George Washington and his allies as careful and freedom-loving patriots. Meanwhile, King George III and the British have been depicted as oppressive tyrants. However, in reality, the colonists were not united in their fight for independence, and many loyalists supported the British, but because the victors wrote the history, the loyalists were often
seconds. Wala na? Okay. Let's hear from the negative side. Your 2 minutes starts now. Set. We now start.
You can say good afternoon, everyone. Moingon ko nga Victor ang nakasuwat kanunay ang history. Naroon na may